Well, hello again. This is Patty with Patty Talks Too Much. And today I'm going to talk about how I went from reversing my rheumatoid arthritis to reversing my age. What? Okay, so I know it's been a long time since my last podcast. It's been a few months, but a lot has been happening. And I bet there's a lot that's been happening in your life too. It seems like our whole world has turned upside down. My last podcast was right after Charlie Kirk had been assassinated. I was reeling from it. Lots of people were reeling from it. It was uh, a very, very heated kind of time. And since then, so much has happened. And I don't know about you, but I've come to many, many realizations, and there have been many revelations, and I've had to process it. And I've also, like, personally, on my own personal journey, I've been going through some healing processes of some really old stuff that has come up for me. And I bet that a lot of you are going through the same kinds of things. Like, it has been a rough and tumble last few months where there have been realizations that have come to the surface. There's a lot of awakening going on. And in the process of that, we have also been called upon to heal some of our deepest, oldest wounds. And so here I am, kind of like in the midst of that. And I really honestly didn't want to do a podcast as I was in the midst of it. It's like, I don't, I just don't want to, and I don't want to talk to anyone. So don't take it personally. I just didn't really want to talk to anybody. I was not, it was a period of time where you could say Patty does not talk too much. Patty isn't talking at all. And I really wasn't. I was kind of in a very insulated, sequestered kind of place where I really needed my quiet time. I needed my alone time. I needed my pondering time. And I would come out and, every once in a while and speak to, like, really close friends who could get it, who understood, like, those, that personal journey of mine. And that's kind of what I did. And so that might resonate with you. You might find that you were going through the same thing. So I wasn't talking much, but here we are now. And I've really gone, by the way, I've really moved through that process. And I continue to. I definitely feel like I've been doing a fair amount of inner work. Um, and I will say that in my journey to heal my physical ailments of rheumatoid arthritis, you do get naturally to this place where you can only go so far physically in your physical healing, and you will be called upon, right? Your psyche, your body, your mind, your spirit is going to call upon you to do some deeper healing emotionally and spiritually. It's just going to happen because it's all connected. So I feel like I was doing a lot of physical healing, and it was just a matter of time before some of these older wounds that may have contributed to my physical ailments in the first place needed to be looked at again and healed in a deeper way. Now, I say that because that's like my personal journey, but I also think, like, as a collective, we are being called upon to do the same thing. And many people, I've just been hearing it across the board that this is a very common thing right now. So I was on my own thing where it seemed like this time coincided with the point in my healing process, my physical healing process, where I was going to have to dive deeper on some emotional healing, and it seemed to coincide with what a lot of folks are doing in the collective. Yeah, lucky me. At any rate, I think it all happens for a reason. I do not question um cosmic or divine timing anymore. It's a fascinating journey. So here we are in December. And what I like to do in December is review, like review the year. And because this year was so much about, what am I going to do with healing this condition of mine? And that was really kind of like I was uber focused on that, obviously, in looking back on the year, that's the kind of thing that I'm looking at. Where was I last December in my healing process? Um, and I'm going to tell you where I am. I'm looking at my notes here because I want to make sure I don't miss anything. So last December, I was still in a lot of pain. I was still, I had days when I felt like, I don't know if this is working. I don't know if I'm actually going to be able to reverse this. I'm I'm feeling my joints are still hurting, and I was about 4 or 5 months in. And I didn't realize that what happens when you start going through these cleanses and these things, that it actually creates a lot of chaos in your body. That you're stirring up so much, so that you can go for a period of months before you actually feel a shift, because it throws your body into chaos. All right, and internal kind of chaos, and you really have to weather that storm and see through it. And so at that time in December, around this time, I still had my moments of feeling defeated. I still, everything still pretty much hurt, and little things hurt to do. So what was I doing at the time? I was I had hired someone to clean my house because I realized I couldn't, I was having difficulty stripping my bed, like pulling and tucking. I couldn't do that. I also couldn't do deep cleans in my bathroom. And so I thought, oh my goodness, I need to hire someone because I like a clean house. Yeah, I like to keep up on top of these things, but these things were still painful to me. So I literally had to have someone come in once a month and do these things for me, strip my bed, change my bed, do some of the deeper cleaning in my house that was painful for me, do a deep cleaning in my bathroom. It was painful for me. So that's where I was at, like physically, in December. Um, I also, my blood work was showing that my liver numbers were off, my kidney numbers were off, my female hormones were off. I was pre-diabetic. That's what my blood work was showing. I was not able to, just going back to the physical stuff, I was not able to exercise. So I had been going to the Y, and I stopped going to the Y because I couldn't really handle those weight machines. My shoulders were in so much pain. My shoulders, my elbows, my body. I was in too much pain. Like going to the gym, just the thought of going to the gym was kind of traumatizing for me. And the thought of getting in the pool and swimming, as I had been, was it I was not able to swim. It was that's the stroke, when you're swimming, that shoulder movement with the stroking was something that was painful to me, and I just avoided it. So I was not going to the gym. Um, and so, my blood work was off. I was all of these things with my blood work, my numbers were off. I was still eating grains. I was rationalizing that, oh, I can eat grains and it's not going to, I was doing the sourdough thing and making the grains and everything. And it took me a little while to accept that, at least for a while, I needed to let the grains go. So, but I was still, I was still doing that. Um, I couldn't carry, I buy all my own water, and I had a hard time carrying things by the handle. So my hands were in too much pain, so I couldn't carry my water up the stairs. I live on the second floor. I couldn't carry my water. Those are like all of these things. I really couldn't carry anything by the handle. I couldn't really do things where I gripped something by the handle and turned it. So I didn't have the strength in my hands, and also my wrist was in too much pain. Um, so that's kind of where I was at last December, and I was feeling, I would have my moments of feeling kind of depressed because I thought, am I going to be able to do this? I committed to this, but I don't really, I don't feel like I'm making any progress. And that can be really disheartening, especially when you feel so debilitated. It wasn't until around this January that I started to see a shift. But in December, no, I was still pretty much in a lot of pain. All right. So now let's look at where I am today. So all my liver numbers are within range. My liver is great. My kidneys are great. All my numbers for my kidneys are great. I am no longer pre-diabetic. Um, the numbers that are off are my thyroid. So as I've been reversing my rheumatoid arthritis, I think what happens is you get closer and closer to what the source of it was to begin with. And so what I'm realizing is that the source of it may have been my thyroid the whole time. So I've got a couple of numbers that are still off. So what I'm doing now is I'm honing in on those numbers. Like, what does that mean? Does it mean that I need to get an ultrasound on my thyroid? Does it mean that I have Hashimoto's? What really do these numbers mean? So I'm actually getting a very specific blood. I'm getting very specific blood tests that are going to hone in on the numbers that are really off with my thyroid at this point. So all my other numbers have shifted, and I'm doing really well, with my organs, with my inner functions and so forth. My thyroid is off. And so I think that what this tells me is that as I've reversed my condition, I still have inflammation, but it has reduced. But as I've reversed my condition, I think I'm getting closer and closer to pinpointing the source of the condition in the first place that may have gone undetected for years. So we're going to kind of get to that. That's the blood work that I'm focusing on right now. So, I was able to begin exercising. I did, earlier in the year, I tried exercising and actually hurt myself. So that, and I had to rest, and I had to really just give it time. So by the time summer rolled around, I was able to start really exercising more seriously. I started walking, and then I decided I was going to go back to the gym. So I returned to the gym. I am now exercising 5 or 6 times a week at the gym. And that includes getting back on the weight machines again, as well as swimming. So I'm back in the pool, I'm back swimming, and I am doing I'm doing the weights. I've also incorporated kind of a version of the five Tibetan rites kind of exercises, and I do them every morning too. And that is a lot of, like, they call it I exercises, but a lot of it has to do with the twisting and the turning of the spine. the flexing, I noticed over time, it's like, yeah, I'm doing these exercises, but I really need to work on my flexibility, which is really, really important. So I've incorporated that, and I do that every morning. I obviously can clean my own house now, scrub my own bathroom, and clean out my own refrigerator and change my own sheets and tuck them in. I was just laughing about that a few days ago when I was changing the sheets on my bed, and I realized, wow, you've really come a long way. And when I was carrying water, those 3-gallon jugs of water, one in each hand, up the stairs, I was like, wow, you've really made progress this year. You could not do that last December. I couldn't hold it in my hands, and also I hurt a knee doing it as well. So there are a lot of things that have greatly improved in the last year. Um, and what else has come out of it? Well, one of the things, like I mentioned when I first started, I do go through the company that I work with is Function Health, and they do, I order through the blood work. I've ordered the blood work, and I probably mentioned this before. It's like well over 100 different things that they are testing you on. So you're in range, you're out of range, whatever, but it tells you it's a lot of blood work. I have to go like twice to have my blood drawn when I'm having the full panel. And what Function Health does is one of the things that they tell you based on your blood work is your biological age. Well, one of the things that happened recently was my nutritionist and I decided that we were going to, 4 months after the last test, we were going to test some numbers. We were curious about my iodine levels. We were curious to see if any of that had changed because, we were honing in on this whole thyroid thing. What is going on with my thyroid? So we decided that we were going to retest some of the blood work. So it was 4 months after my last battery of blood work. And what we discovered in this blood work is that in the 4 months since my last blood work, my age had reversed 5 months. So I had lived 4 months and reversed my age 5 months. So I am literally, as I move forward at this point, I am more rapidly moving backward. So I am reversing my age. And so it'll be very interesting to see if that pattern continues. I'm sure it will. So as I move forward, my biological age is reversing. And I think that this is what happens eventually as you get out of the way and let your body heal itself, as you clean up your food, as you do the cleanses, as you supplement it, you give it what it needs, you focus on nutritionally dense foods and as clean as you can feed it. And you do regular cleanses for your internal organs, you will see that your body heals and actually gets younger biologically. So, and I would rather my body reverse and age biologically than go out and, do a whole bunch of Botox so that I look 10 years younger, but I'm actually not. I remember when I had my cafe, and it was down in Florida, and it wasn't far from Boca. And Boca, Boca is known as like the Botox capital of the world or something, let's face it. But I had a dear customer, and she was from Boca, and she would come up to Lake Worth, which was definitely not Boca, but she would come up regularly to my cafe, and we would chat. And she would come with her husband, and of course they were like typical Boca people. I mean, I loved them to death. That they had all kinds of work done, and they were super tanned, and They were, they just had all of the things, that you would expect, a vocal couple to have. And they did look maybe 15 years younger than they actually were because they had had all this work done. But then she came in one day. She wasn't with her husband. Her husband had had a heart attack. Her husband was now on all of these medications and such. And then she came in, later in that she was suffering. I was like, what's going on? She had diverticulitis and she was dealing with diverticulitis. So here was a couple that looked great. They look great for their age, but their bodies were breaking down on them. And so, I understand why we want to look, we live in a culture where, you look as young as you look as young as you can for as long as you can. I get it. Um, but there is so much more to be said for being younger biologically. What is your biological age? So right now, I am now biologically 6 years younger than I actually am, and I'm setting a goal. I am. I want to be 10 years younger. Going into the new year. I want to be 15 years younger than my biological age, than my actual age. I want my biological age to continue to reverse as I attend to my health. And I think that that is a wonderful investment. So for me, I would rather invest in all of the things that I would need to invest in order to achieve that younger biological age, as opposed to investing all of those thousands of dollars in actually looking like I'm 15 years younger, but not really that age biologically. So, but that's just me. So I wanted to also share something else. So I, I've I've shared this before. I've cleaned up a lot, so no sugar. At this point, no grains, though. I'm close to maybe introducing some grains back, but it would be very, very clean grains, as clean as I can get them. But at any rate, that aside, there's a woman that I know at work who is now she's been able to lose a lot of weight through intermittent fasting, right? But her thing is that on the days that she eats, she just eats anything. She doesn't deprive herself of anything. So she just eats anything. And then she has the days where she doesn't eat. And she made a comment the other day that I thought was interesting. She said, well, you know, you've just, you've just, deprived yourself of so much. Like you don't eat anything. And where she was coming from is, well, you've deprived yourself, I don't deprive myself of these things, but you have. Like, I let myself eat these things and you don't. And I was thinking later on, it's like, I don't feel deprived. Like when everyone's passing around the Dunkin' Donuts, I'm not thinking, oh man, I wish I could have a Dunkin' Donut. Or when they're talking about, oh, the school has provided pizza or Subway sandwiches, why don't you go down and have some? Oh, you're not eating that, oh, poor you. Like, I don't think, oh, I'm so deprived, I don't have that. Or when they're passing around candy or anything, like, I don't feel deprived that I don't have that food. I no longer have any desire, and I don't feel like, oh gee, my life isn't as fulfilled as theirs because I'm not eating all of that good stuff. I kind of look at it and think, I'm at this point now where I look at it and I think, oh my goodness, how we poison ourselves is really crazy. It's like, why would I want to do that? Why would I want to put that in my body? I don't want to put that in my body. And I realized that, like, we are so controlled by those tiny little taste buds in our mouths. So we let those tiny little taste buds in our mouths rule our entire life. So whatever satisfies those tiny little taste buds on the top of your tongue there, All right. That's what rules. And it doesn't matter what your liver thinks of it, or what your kidney thinks of it, or what your gut thinks of it, your microbiome thinks of it, or what your heart thinks of it. No, it's all about the taste buds. And I think like big food has gotten that and has opportunized off of it and is able to sell us not only food that is not nutritional, but actually negatively nutritional, but it is addictive. And so you have big food companies getting us addicted to food that is actually anti-nutrition. It in other words, it provides no nutrition. In fact, it depletes us and puts toxins in our bodies that actually harm us. And so, but they're able to do it because our taste buds are so powerful. Right now, I think, like, don't get me wrong, I eat tasty food. The thing is that what big food has done is they make snacks and things like that out of literal cardboard and things that, like, we should never put in our bodies, but they add so many additives to it that we actually think it's delicious. So we're eating really delicious toxins. And so when you get that, it's like, why would I put that? I don't feel deprived at all. I don't, because I don't feel addicted anymore to foods that are full of those kinds of additives or sugars. I don't feel addicted to it at all. So there's this whole mindset about, like, well, if you clean it up, then you're deprived. I mean, like, what? How do you have fun in life? Like, where's your enjoyment in life? And I realize, like, so much of our rewards and so much of the enjoyment or whatever that we're given is centers around food, but it's bad food. It's like, oh, let's celebrate, let's have cake. Oh, let's celebrate, let's have pizza. Oh, and it's always really, really bad food. So um so I think that we have a long way to go in terms of our relationship to food and kind of cleaning up big food. Um, but at any rate, so here we are, and I am setting my goals for the new year. So now a lot of times what people will do is they'll say, oh, I've made progress, so now I can go back to my old ways. Well, I think that that's the diet mentality. I'm going to lose this 20 pounds and then I can go back to normal. And that's why, people don't keep the weight off because, it's a lifestyle, it's not a diet. And that's kind of how I feel about this whole focus that I've had on reversing my rheumatoid arthritis. I'm not out of the woods yet, but I have seen tremendous progress, and not only tremendous progress in reversing my rheumatoid arthritis, but also progress in reversing my biological age. That's huge. And so that is so much encouragement for me. So what that does is it motivates me to go further and deeper in my pursuit of optimal health. All right. So then I start looking. It's December. We're going into the new year. My birthday is actually in January. So I feel like my birthday is at the beginning of the new year. It's like, what do I want to do with this new year of my life as well? And so I've decided I want to go deeper and further in my journey in terms of really elevating my health. So, some of the things that I'm thinking about, one thing that I wanted to share is I decided that I would get a health related DNA test. This is through Living DNA, and basically, and I just sent it off, so I'll be getting my results. But basically, they look at your DNA and then they give you a report on, based on your DNA, right? Which is based on, like, your whole lineage and everything. What are the best foods and the best things to eat what's the best nutrition for you and your DNA? And so I'm very excited to see what those results are. So that's one of the things that I'm doing. I have also discovered, and this is true for anybody on a, you know, on a healing journey, you start addressing physical ailments, especially something that's systemic, like, rheumatoid arthritis. You move along on that journey for a while, and it is inevitable. You will bump up against uh, your need to address emotional healing as well, emotional and spiritual healing. It will happen because it's all connected. So, and that's a good thing. So we begin in the physical, and it really does lead us to a need to address our emotional healing. And so going into the new year, I'm looking to take deeper dives into what I can do to elevate my healing journey. And a lot of that may have to do with emotional healing. So I'm doing the living DNA thing. I think that my cleanses are going to be elevated in some ways. Um, I think that what I'm going to start incorporating will be body work. I think at this point, I need to do body work, which is like massage and acupuncture, those things to release some possible traumas that are in my body that need to be released. So another thing that I'm going to do is because I'm looking at how can I incorporate not only like what does it mean to eat more and more nutritionally dense food, and then of course that's living food, and I do not think like the answer is becoming vegan or vegetarian, though I do think that the Japanese have gotten it quite well with they're onto something with wok cooking, cooking with a wok, because it's high heat at a short interval, which allows the food, even if it's meat, like to allows the food that they're cooking to hold more of the nutrition, even though it's cooked. Because what happens with cooked food is you lose a lot of the nutrition. And here's the thing: I love cooked food. I love soups. I love hot food. I'm not a real big raw food eater. So, given that, I mean, if I was a really big raw food eater, then I'd be just like, oh, I'm going to eat a lot of raw food. And I probably will, but I think that in the coming year, I'm going to explore wok cooking for a lot of my cooked meals so that I can have cooked meals and know that it is holding more of the nutrition than it would if I cooked it another way. As I've gotten healthier, as my body has healed, as I kind of move along in this process, I have more space and more energy to dedicate to creativity. I've always been a really very creative person, but when my health went down with the rheumatoid arthritis, it was very difficult to think about anything other than trying to heal my body. And so now I'm at a place now where I can kind of come out of my healing cocoon a little bit and start focusing some of my energy on creative endeavors. Now, one of the things that I really do want to share for folks who are listening and thinking, Patty, I don't even know how to start. I mean, honestly, listen, we're coming into a new year. If you have discovered it's like, oh man, I really need to address my health and I have no idea where to start, I want to just give you a little bit of an analogy, and hopefully it'll help. So there are folks like Ramsey. What's his name? Something Ramsey. John Ramsey. Well, Ramsey, the guy who talks about getting out of debt. So, you know how overwhelming it is to be in debt and you have no idea where to start. Where do I start? It's so overwhelming. I feel like I'm never going to get out of debt. It's just hopeless, right? But he has a strategy, which is it, and I think he calls it the snowball effect, where you take all your debts, you line them up, and you line them up according to the amount. And basically, what you do is you start with the smallest amount. You put all your energy into that, and then when that's done, then you take it to the next one, and then you deal with that, and then you take it to the next one, and then you deal with that, and it's like the snowball effect. All right, so you start with the smallest debt, and then you go on to the next one, and then you go on to the next one, and before you know it, you have this exponential kind of effect on your debt situation. I honestly think that that is an approach you can apply to your health. All right. So you look at, the things, all of the things that could or should be improved with your health. Like if you're eating fast food, if you're a smoker, if you're a drinker, if you're addicted to sugar, if you got all of these things going on in your body, you have nowhere to start. You just you don't know, like, where the hell do I start, Patty? um I would start, honestly, if you want to create a snowball effect with your health, I would start with the change that's going to be the easiest for you. Start with the smallest step that you can do. So the smallest step for you it could be, maybe I don't, I eliminate processed foods. Let's say you have a real sugar problem. You can't eliminate, you cannot eliminate all sugar, all of this. You can't do cold turkey sugar. You would have to do baby steps. All right, I'm not going to eat chocolate bars, right? Or whatever. Or I'm going to eliminate soda, right? Whatever it is you think you can do, like the smallest step. Now, the smallest step for you might be, I'll start with a cleanse. I can do that. I can do a parasite cleanse, or I can um, I can do a colon cleanse, right? I can do one of those cleanses, right? I can do that. All right, then start with that. But start with the thing that you can do first. All right, and then you move on to the next. But make a list. Make a list of all of the things that you would like to do to improve your health. So it could be the things you'd like to eliminate, the things you'd like to add, right? The activities you like to do. Maybe I need to start exercising, right? And it could be something really small. But whatever you do, start there, do it for a month, and then add something, and then keep going. Once you've established that, for a month, then move on to the next thing, and then the next thing. What you're going to see is one good habit leads to the next. You're going to find, just as these people do who are getting themselves out of overwhelming and often paralyzing debt, is once they get through the first one, the first two, the third, they are excited. They see the light at the end of the tunnel. They start feeling the weight lifting off their shoulders. And so, as you begin to make those steps, as little as they seem, you're going to feel it. You will start feeling the effects of it. And that in of itself is motivation to keep going, go further, go deeper, go harder, however it is, there is something to that approach that I think works for a lot of things. So I would just recommend that you start with the smallest step that you can do. Do it for a month, and then add the next one. You can even put them in order on your list. And don't be rigid. You might find that you need to move your list around. it's not really like a New Year's resolution. What it is it's a plan for a new you in the coming year. So by the end of 2026, you will be a new person. I mean, it takes a year for all of our cells in our body to change, to revitalize, to be new again. And so if you think about it that way, each month you're doing something to support the regeneration of all the cells in your body. And that by the time you get to the end of 2026, you will have done all of these steps so that the person you are at the end of 2026 is going to be a much healthier person because of all of the small steps that you've made. And believe me, your body will thank you. So that is all I have for today. It's been such a pleasure doing these podcasts with you this year and sharing my journey. I think, I might be making some changes going into the new year, but I'll certainly share them as we move into the new year. I just want to give it a little thought. But it's been so much fun. If you have been listening in from around the world, I really appreciate you. I see you. So for you, enjoy the journey, enjoy your holidays, be grateful for everything. Be grateful for the coming new year. Try not to put too much energy into the chaos that's happening around the world. It's not really worth your energy. What's worth your energy is you and the people and the things that you care about. I'll see you in the new year. Thanks for watching. Ciao.